This next question is kind of, it's a good question. I think we're going to get a lot out of it, but it's a little bit of a longer question. And I'm going to actually end up reading it, I think, twice. First time I'm just going to read it through. Here we go. I've been working on asking you this question for over a year, and this is the best way I think I can articulate it. Everything I say falls on deaf ears. I try to give advice when asked or if someone is in trouble, and they don't listen to the sound advice. Then later, I try to get them listen to someone else that might have more credibility, an author or podcaster, philosopher, etc., and they still won't listen. They tried their hardest to make what solutions I'm trying to give don't not apply to them because of X, Y, and Z. All excuses, almost as if they are too good to implement the advice because it came from me and me alone. Literally solving people's problems, and they are deliberately not listening. It's not how I present the information they should use. My tonality is just fine. It's almost as if they won't listen because they know I'm right. And they want to prove I'm wrong by not giving me the respect. I feel the majority of people see me as lesser, not worthy of respect or listening to, even though I use such obvious logic. These people continuously try to exercise power over me defiantly. An extreme, non-influential presence, even with logic, tact, respectfulness. No one wants to listen to me. People just refuse to even respectfully move out of the way when I'm trying to get around them. Not even strangers, people I live with. I don't understand what it is about me that most people don't respect. Everyone seems to have the attitude to defy or oppose everything I say. No matter the circumstances, whether I'm trying my best to lead, give advice, etc., people won't listen to me. They won't get behind me. I lack so much influence. It's not funny. I try, but to no avail. What do you think? So, look, it's a rough situation, right?
Yes.
I feel for the individual in that situation. I feel, I think, imagine the frustration that you feel being in that position where you just no one's listening to you. That being said, we have a situation here where you can see a lot of it is based on everyone else's problems and not mine. So it starts off, everything I say falls on deaf ears. So even that statement right there, out of the gate, it's not what I'm saying. It's that they are deaf.
Right. Yeah.
So that right there is just, we're opening salvo is, you're not listening to me. Then I try to give advice when asked or if someone is in trouble and they don't listen to sound advice. Again, whose fault is that? I'm giving you sound advice and everyone else, they're not listening. Continues on. Then I try to get them to listen to someone else that might have more credibility, an author or podcaster, philosopher, and they still won't listen. And I'm sitting there thinking to myself, I wonder what that sounds like. Right?
Yes,
I imagine that it sounds something like, you should, Hackworth says the exact same thing as me. Or you might want to listen to some Sam Harris. Because if you listen to some Sam Harris, you listen to some Tim Ferriss, you'll see the light on this. Mm-hmm. Meaning I'm over here, I already see the light.
Right,
You might want to check out the light with me. Or, Marcus Aurelius is he's a good reference point. One of the classic Stoics. You might want to check him out. So I feel like there's a little, you're just bolstering your opinion by offering other people that you agree with. Mm-hmm. And now it's supposed to give it clout. That's kind of the feeling I get a little bit. Gotcha. Okay, continuing on. Then they try their hardest to make what solutions I'm trying to give doesn't apply to them because of X, Y, Z, all excuses. And again, now instead of saying, hey, what way am I explaining these that people have got perfect solutions, allegedly, which again, that's a huge assumption, is that my solutions are freaking perfect and they just won't listen. But instead of saying that, it's like, oh, maybe my solutions, number one, aren't that great, or number two, maybe I'm not explaining them out very well. Mm-hmm. But none of this is my fault. It's their fault, and they're just making excuses. It's not on me. And then it continues, almost as if they are too good to implement the advice because it came from me and me alone. And this is where you start to hear that. This is where I start to get a little bit of a sense of the mindset of the individual. Because the individual's perception that that people don't like or people don't respect them, the individual, it causes that individual to act in ways that that individual doesn't even perceive themselves. Mm-hmm. So what shows through, again, intent has a smell. What shows through is frustration. What shows through is resentment. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Resentment shows through. You can't hide resentment. Annoyance. When you're annoyed that people aren't listening to you, it shows through. Arrogance shows. When you think you have the perfect solution and that's how you're coming across, that's how you're talking to people, that shows through. Mm-hmm. And so that perception that people don't like me, that perception that that people are looking down on me, that perception that you have of yourself shows through, and it comes across in a bad way. The next sentence, literally solving people's problems and they are deliberately not listening. Again, none of this has to do with me. None of it has to do with my solutions themselves. None of it has to do with any of that. They just don't like me. It's their fault.
Yeah. Totally their fault.
And by the way, in doing that, we have to assume that these people are just going to fail because they're not listening. So I would rather fail than listen to Fred here. Mm-hmm. And then and then this is just, it's not how I present the information they should use. My tonality is just fine.
Oh yeah, just fine.
Right?
Yeah.
Right? This is not my fault. My tonality is fine. Like the way I'm presenting. Look, I'm presenting this in the most just beautiful way.
Yeah.
It's not on me. It's not my fault. My tonality is actually perfect. The way I present my ideas is so good.
You know what's funny is like, I know you're exaggerating, but it's for good reason.
I'm trying to make the point.
Yeah, exactly right. And that's good because, I'm putting myself in his shoes where I'm like, my tonality is fine. Like, what does it feel like when you for real believe that your tonality is fine? You say, but my tonality is fine. Like, but really what it really is I never really thought about it. It doesn't stand out as not fine to me, So it's like, yeah, my tonality is fine. I'm going to include that in there just so we all know kind of thing, right? That's how it feels for me. Yeah. But in reality, it's like, oh, is it? Fine, just fine. Because apparently not, right? So that's why you exaggerate it to help it stand out as a thing. Yeah. You see what I'm saying? But yes, I feel it. That's what I felt when my tonality is fine. That's what I felt. You might as well have said my tonality is the most perfect tonality in the history of tonality.
Yeah. Because that's not something that you would even think about.
Yeah. Yeah.
You just be like,
as a person,
But you go through it and you think, you know what? The way I talk to everyone is actually fine. It's actually good.
Yeah. Like, if it wasn't, I would know about it.
Yeah, clearly.
It would stand out to me. Yeah, exactly.
Next sentence. It's almost as if they won't listen to me because they know I'm right. And they want to prove I'm wrong by not giving me the respect. All kinds of insecurity issues right there. All kinds of insecurity, and that insecurity comes across. And it doesn't come across as like, Echo's kind of insecure, but will listen. No, it comes across as you're overcompensating by a long shot. And by the way, it's almost as if they won't listen to me because they know I'm right. I mean, that's just crazy talk, right? Mm-hmm. How many times, Echo Charles, how many times have you heard me say, I know I'm right?
None. Zero.
And there's some things that I'm pretty knowledgeable about.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
There's some things that I'm pretty knowledgeable about. And how many times have I don't even know what this guy does for a living. Mm-hmm. But let's say maybe, there's no telling. But even a master of something shouldn't say, I know I'm right.
Yeah.
Very, very, very seldom.
Yeah. And
very seldom.
Man, especially that right there. I know I'm right. There's a difference between like, I know this is true or I know this is.
How about this? I think this is true.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm talking like
because
a
you're
factual
going
thing.
next level.
Yeah. Well, okay. So.
Okay. Yeah. If you want to say
saying factual, like he was there. That person was there at that location. Like I know that's true. Like that's different than saying I know I'm right about this. You know, I know I'm right. I know I'm right. Yeah. No, you have never said that.
Meanwhile, this guy is saying it. And by the way, you know, this is like starting to get into the, hey, everyone is against me. Not only that, the whole world, everyone that I deal with, they all don't listen to me. What is wrong with everyone else, right? This isn't even like, hey, look, you and I had a little disagreement. I'm going to take ownership of it and just say it's my fault. No, this is everyone.
Yeah.
Continuing on, I feel the majority of people see me as lesser, not worthy of respect or listening, even though I use such obvious logic. Now this is where I start to feel like sympathy, right? Like, because now you got this bad, low self-esteem, low self-opinion, and when you see yourself as lesser, then you start to overcompensate for it. Many people start to overcompensate, and you know, they start to try and act like, they start to say things like, I use obvious logic.
Yeah.
There's a whole genre of people who like to use the terms facts, logic, and so when they say, well, you know what, Jocko, look, I come at people with facts and logic, and sometimes it just pisses them off. And what they don't, you know what I mean?
Yes, sir, I do.
It's one of the things that you refer back to a lot, which is when someone says, you know, hey, I'm just that type of person you just have to deal with it. They feel the same way about saying, look, I just deal in facts and logic. And, you know, people can't accept it sometimes.
They can't accept it.
And what are you going to say? Well, you know, lies are better, or it's one of those, it's kind of like you put yourself on in a position of authority, right? Listen, I like to use facts and logic.
Yeah, it's like irrefutable.
Yeah, I use facts and logic, and other people are just emotional and crazy, and obviously everyone should just listen to me. So that's kind of a little bit of that tonality here. Yeah. So it continues. These people, and by the way, people is in quotes. I'm not kidding. People is in quotes. These people, as if they're subhumans.
Yes, sir.
These people continuously try to exercise their power over me defiantly. And then it's kind of a weirdly worded sentence, an extreme, non-influential presence, even with logic, tact, and respectfulness. So he's talking about himself. No one wants to listen to me. So saying that you have tact, respectfulness, and logic. I mean, this is there's no ownership about the message, about the delivery, about the tonality, about the attitude. Everything is everyone else's fault. And by the way, like, this is one of those things where if he was talking about, you know, I got this one department and the two senior people in the department, they have then you start thinking, okay, well, you know, maybe they got some ego, and maybe you need to massage their ego. We'll work through that. This is everyone. We're talking about, you know, everyone that I'm interacting with doesn't listen to me. They disrespect me. He continues on. People just refuse to even respectfully move out of the way when I'm trying to get around them. Not even strangers, people I live with. This statement, first of all, why not move around other people, right? That's first of all. Second of all, you ever hear when someone says, oh, I was thinking about buying a Corvette, and now everywhere I look, I see Corvettes?
Yeah.
And this is the same thing where he feels disrespected. Now, anytime anybody's in his way, they're straight up disrespecting him.
Yeah. Yes.
Continues on. I don't understand what it is about me that most people don't respect. Everyone seems to have the attitude to defy or oppose everything I say, no matter the circumstance, whether I'm trying my best to lead, give advice, etc. People won't listen to me. They won't get behind me. I lack so much influence. It's not funny. I try, but to no avail. What do you think? So here's what I think to this individual. Stop trying so hard. Stop trying so hard to lead. Stop trying so hard to influence. Stop trying so hard to give advice to everybody. Leadership starts with following people. That's where leadership starts. I would say, assessing what I'm reading, that you lack real true confidence. Real true confidence. You have some false bravado that makes you say it's obvious and I'm logical. That's not real. I think you lack, and the lack of confidence comes through all over this thing. And so does the overcompensation. So, oddly enough, let me tell you something. Start training jiu-jitsu. Strange thing to say, right? Strange thing to say. Start lifting weights. Those are two things. I'm going to say start training jiu-jitsu, start lifting weights. Why? Because you lack confidence. And those things will start to give you confidence. Start listening to people. Instead of always feeling like you need to give your 2 cents, start listening to people. It actually takes confidence to listen. I write about that in Leadership Strategy and Tactics. It takes extreme confidence to accept other people's ideas. That takes the highest level of confidence. And if you don't know that, then you're constantly trying to show that you don't need to listen to their ideas. So start listening to other people. Start trying to support their plans instead of trying to force your great ideas down everyone's throats. Because right now you don't have a relationship with anybody. All you do is you're constantly outbound at people, do this, do that. It's always about you. So start following other people. Start supporting other people. It takes confidence. It takes true confidence to follow. It takes true confidence to support other people. And right now, you don't have that kind of confidence. You don't have that kind of humility, and so you act arrogant. And that right there is probably why no one listens to you, because you act arrogant. So force yourself to be humble. Force yourself to listen. Force yourself to follow. And over time, you will start to be appreciated. And when people start to appreciate that, you and the way you behave, then people will start to listen to you. And then eventually you will be followed by people. And all that right there starts off with you taking ownership of your shortfalls instead of blaming everyone else. Because that's exactly what this whole thing is. And if you want to go through life blaming everyone else for everything that doesn't go your way, then you actually have no power over it, and you'll just continue in this situation forever. But if you want to actually take ownership of it, you can fix the shortfalls, which are yours. They're your shortfalls. And then you can become eventually the leader that you want to be. Otherwise, you continue down this path of blaming everyone else, not changing yourself, and you will continue to be not listened to, not respected.
Bro, this is an extreme case.
It's an extreme case. It's an extreme case, and I really hope. I truly hope that this individual is really listening.
Yeah.
Because the way that this individual feels about everyone else, it's going to be really easy. Jocko's an idiot.
Yeah. Jocko's another one of those people. Yeah.
Won't listen to my logic.
Yeah, and
it makes that actually, honestly, it makes me sad. Yeah. It makes me sad to see someone in this state.
Yeah.
It does.
Well, and I don't want to come off like, oh, this is an extreme case, like I'm this expert. But I will say that I think we all are in the same boat.
But did you just say that? Speaking of arrogance, jeez.
But I think we're all in the same boat to say we know what this is. We know people like this all the time. Bruh, I'm not disparaging fitness people at all, but you ever had an extreme fitness person where if you ate some bubble gum, they'd be like, you know how much sugar's in that bubble gum? The thing is, Brad, that's all true. All that facts, all those facts and logic and all this stuff. Oh yeah, they're not gonna land though because, Brad. Okay, so I used to get into not arguments but little things with my brother where he'd every once in a while, he's not an extreme case, but every once in a while he'll bust out some debate stuff, you know, out of nowhere, right? Where you know how someone will say something and they're just talking casually, and then you'll be like, hey, what you said there's not right, and all this stuff, right? Yeah, no one likes that. No one likes that. No matter how correct, no matter. So what I wound up telling them to try to sum up the whole thing, I said, what you're saying is right, but what you're doing is wrong. And so it's like there's another level to it, you know, like all this facts and logic, whatever.
Wait, you told that to your brother?
Yes. Like when you
wait, you guys were in a debate of some kind?
No,
or you were just giving him a general sort of overview of his existence?
I was scolding him for getting people into debates all the time. Okay. You know, like if me and you were talking, he's listening. Like there was this time, I think this is what prompted it, where me and Terry were, and we were just talking about kids, you know, just kind of raising kids, and we're like doing this and this, and he was sort of listening and kind of in the conversation, but I was talking to Terry, and we were talking about something, I forget exactly what it was, but something about like, oh, if you do this, this will create this response with the kid. And then we're like, but what if it had the reverse response or whatever? And then he chimed in with something like, oh no, it would have this initial response. And I'm like, well, but it could stand to reason that, look, they might respond like this, you know, kind of just talking though, like, isn't it interesting kind of thing? And then meanwhile, I'm talking to Terry, by the way, and facilitating Jade's comments, but I'm more talking to Terry. And then he interrupted and goes, no, there's studies about this and that. And then I'm like, everyone's kind of like pausing. I was like, oh, dude, he's really aggressive right now. He even said afterwards, he's like, no, I'm sorry, that came off, whatever.
He likes to do that.
Oh, yeah, big time. And that's why I wound up, when I say scolding, it's like, brother, it's your brother, so it's not even scolding. But nonetheless, it's, like what you're saying, regardless of what it is, like if you have all these logic, irrefutable logic and facts and all this stuff, like, bro, that's all correct. But what you're doing is wrong.
What just one thing that really bothers me about this is I actually know 100%, which I just talked about not saying. Yes. I know that an individual in this situation can turn it around.
Yeah, so
I know they can turn it around.
Yes.
There's in Leadership Strategy and Tactics, I have a section called Conform to Influence. And it just talks about, like, hey, basically what you just said, you know, when the fitness person's like, hey, you should work out every day at 4:00 in the morning. And people are like, hey, dude, I'm not going to listen to you because you're barking at me. You're offensive to me. Yeah. You know, I had this question at the muster in Australia from the female that was like, hey, I love health. I care about health. I'm working out every morning. I'm trying to get everyone motivated. I'm telling them that they shouldn't be eating what they're eating for lunch. I'm telling them they should come work out with me afterwards. And she's basically not part of the crew. Yeah. They're all just looking at her thinking, just be quiet. Yeah. And I said, why don't you form some relationships with the people so that they start to listen to you? So that's another kind of overlying or underlying tone here is you don't have relationships with anybody. Why are they going to listen to anything that you say? Yeah. Form relationships with people. How do you do that? You listen to them. You follow them. You support them. Yeah.
That is, like you say, that you can recover from it. And that, but it's not going to be the next day, man. In fact,
no, for sure. He's got a little campaign. He's got a campaign ahead of him. I think. Yeah, big campaign.
Because the same way that you look at the Corvette thing that you did, and you're always seeing the Corvettes everywhere, and so it's like this kind of pattern of thought, right? Where now he looks at everyone as like, oh, I just can't wait. Like it's almost like he's waiting for them, anticipating them to disrespect them or whatever, and that's just how. But it's a two-way street. People are now waiting for him to say some BS to them now. He's going to roll in the room and people are like, here comes whatever with his crap.
Let me throw a hypothesis at you. The reason I think it might be a little not as hard as you think it would be is because I bet people don't really have these horrible feelings about him. I bet they're just kind of like, you know what I mean? They're just kind of like, oh yeah. Like when they say, oh, you know, I don't, when they say to them, I don't think we're going to do it that way. He's thinking, see, they don't listen. And they're really just thinking, well, it seems like there's a problem with that. You know, it seems like that'd be a little logistically complicated, you know, and he doesn't hear that. He just hears they hate me and they don't listen to me.
That is possible.
So it might not be, you know, I get asked sometimes, you know, well, I'm a female. And the guys are thinking this, or I'm a man, I'm working with these women, and they're thinking that. And I go, you know who probably is thinking the most about being a man in that room? Yeah. You. Yeah, you know who's probably thinking the most about being a woman? You know, I've had female leaders come and brief me over and over again, And I'm not thinking, oh, it's a woman. I'm going to see it from this perspective.
Right.
No. Are there some people that do that? Sure. But most people are like, oh, what is she talking about?
Yeah.
So there's a good chance that some of this is just in his head. Some of it is just in his head. And the person that's thinking about this the most is actually him.
Yeah. It's possible.
It's also possible that
everyone does.
Well, this much I can promise you. These people are not going home and thinking about him all night.
Yeah.
I can promise you that's not happening. Maybe 2 of them are.
Yeah.
But he's going home and thinking about them all day, all night. He's thinking about how much they disrespect him, how much they're not thinking about that. Yeah. They don't move out of his way. He walks down the hallway and wants to get into the freaking refrigerator room. And someone's in the way, and they kind of like go first.
Yeah.
They never think about that moment again. He's dwelling on it.
I know.
Don't dwell on it, man. No one's thinking about it. Just be cool. Listen to other people. Be humble.
Bro, that's rough too. Like if that's in your mind, like people just won't even get out of my way when I'm trying to go around them. It's like, whoa, bro, that's like some sensitive, like, bro, that's where you're finding this. Right, you're finding Corvettes everywhere,
You're
man.
finding Corvettes everywhere you look is a Corvette. Even Corvettes that aren't Corvettes start looking like Corvettes. You know what I'm saying?
Oh,
You start seeing
little Fieros.
Yeah, Fieros
remember
looking
those?
Like, yes,
Pontiac.
Unfortunately.
They
start looking
like a Corvette.
Yeah.
Brother, and to me, as far as me goes, that's true. But at the same time, everyone could know this about this guy. Everyone could have this like notion of this guy that this is who this guy is already. He's so annoying. Every little thing that I do, he has some advice to make it different or better.
Yeah.
You know,
but
like
even those guys, you don't think about them when they're not there.
Well, yeah.
Right?
Yeah, that is
even
true.
those guys.
Yeah.
When they show up, you're like, oh, here comes Billy.
Yeah, with his...
And somebody named Bill, by the way, hit me up on social media and
I
says,
know,
why is all the bad guys named Bill? Okay, so let's say Darren.
Darren thing.
You know, you got little Darren coming in. You go, oh, here's Darren with his loud mouth. Or he's got his own ideas.
Yeah.
When Darren leaves, I'm not thinking about Darren. It's not driving me crazy. I'm not taking a year. He took a year to formulate this email. A year to formulate. So he's thinking about this all the time for a year.
Yeah,
to try and articulate it the right way, which, by the way, according to him, he did. He did articulate it the right way. He says, I've been working on asking you this question for over a year, and this is the best way I think I can articulate it. This is it. The best way.
Yeah. Yeah, man. It's hard. Now, okay, so there's this...
I thought you were going to comment at least on the fact that I told him to start training jiu-jitsu.
Yeah, well, bro, I have nothing to add. Yes, sir.
Start
Amen.
training jiu-jitsu. Isn't it? It's a real thing. Help your self-confidence.
Yeah.
Hang around with some other people. Get choked out. Get arm locked.
Yeah.
Start lifting weights.
Yeah, and maybe
start getting in shape.
Maybe one of those results, one of the many results of that might be, but you won't be compelled to try to correct everybody everywhere you go. Like, okay, so sometimes, like, I want to say all the time, bro, if people aren't asking for like advice, not all the time, sometimes it works, but if they're not asking for advice, you can't just unsolicited be correcting people.
How often are you walking around just standing by and hoping that everyone gives you advice on stuff? There's not a lot of people like that.
Yeah, I mean, it's really rare. But there was a time, okay, back to my brother, Jade. He was stuck in sand with his truck on Kauai. So he wasn't stuck, but he was getting stuck, right? And we could all see him. He was kind of in the distance there, and he's starting to get stuck. And there's all kinds of techniques to get unstuck in sand. All kinds of techniques, right? Sure. But there's a protocol. It's pretty standard or whatever. So he's beginning to get stuck. And our other friend, Richard, is he the most tactful guy in the world?
Sounds like a no.
At every single moment of his life, maybe not. And at this particular moment, he wasn't. So I see Richard walking over there, about to go give Jade some advice on how to not get stuck, right?
Is he qualified to give advice? And should Jade be taking advice at this point?
Okay, well, that's another question. To me, if you're about to get stuck, if it really seems like you're about to get stuck and someone's going to offer you advice to not get stuck, I think logically, right, you should take the advice. But we're dealing with the real world here. So Jade's about to get stuck. Jade has a protocol in his mind. right? He's not like unaware of this protocol, but he has it in his mind. But according to what seemed like, what it looked like was in Richard's mind, he didn't. So Richard's aggressively going over there to give him some unsolicited advice, which he obviously needs, right? And we can't hear any of the advice. We can't hear it. We only see the body movements, right? So you see, aggressively Richard's telling him whatever he's telling him with his hand movements and all this stuff. Jade's like, no reaction. The kind when you're real annoyed, but you have no reaction. You're just like kind of looking down or whatever. And he's like doing his own protocol. Meanwhile, Richard's like coaching him aggressively, not landing at all, falling on deaf ears, as it were. And every time, it's like every maybe 5-10 seconds, Richard would like turn around and throw his hands up as if to say, this guy's not listening to me. And he did that maybe 3-4 times, right? So you could tell it was not going good over there. So I'm like, all right. So we're all watching it, me, my other brother, and we're kind of laughing a little bit because we see the scenario. We see Jade getting stucker and stucker. And Richard, we just see the whole thing playing out. So later on, we kind of talk to Jade, kind of teasing him, right? Like, bro, why don't you just like listen or whatever? And he went into that side of the whole deal where it's like, man, you can't it's hard to listen when someone just like jumps in your whole stressful situation, offering you all this like whack advice in this whack kind of way.
Yeah, there's ways to deliver advice in critical situations like that. And even then, most likely an indirect approach is advised.
And that's and in this situation to him, or it doesn't matter what it looked like to us. What it looked like to Richard is like, oh, this guy obviously needs my advice right now. Obviously. In Jade's mind, he's like, I know, I've done this before.
So I had a conversation with somebody on EF Online the other day. I was saying, look, in this situation, you should approach with an indirect approach. Yeah. And then as I'm talking to her, I can see that she's kind of annoyed, and she actually was like a logic and facts based thing. Look, why can't I just say the logic and facts of what's going on and then have everyone just get on board with the program? Was the thought process, right? And I said, I can see that this bothers you because what you're saying from your perspective is, look, I know the facts. It doesn't make any sense that I waste all this time trying to, take this indirect approach to try and get someone to understand the facts so we can change the direction that we're going or adjust the plan accordingly. That's just dumb. I said, I can see that on your face. Here's the thing. If you take a direct, which is why we're having this conversation, by the way, you take a direct approach and it doesn't work. So you don't adjust the plan. Yeah. I'm suggesting you take an indirect approach, which will actually work. And yes, it will take a little more time up front, but the result will be positive. So if Richard would have taken an indirect approach and walked over and he would be, why should I have to tell Jade that? Why should I have to I could just tell him, hey, you need to put it in reverse and rock it, or whatever advice he had to give him. If he would have gone over and said, hey, do you want me to tell you where your tires are at, or something like that? Just a nice, just a little indirect approach.
Jump on his team.
Yeah, just jump on his team. And then all of a sudden, Jade's mind is open. All of a sudden, they're literally on the same team just by saying, hey, you want me to put some weight on the front for you? Yeah. Or whatever. Hey, do you want me to throw some extra? Whatever you do to get on the team. And then you're going to win in the end. And the indirect approach, which seems like a big pain in the ass out of the gate. Oh my God, I can't believe I have to do this and play this game. I have to play this game. Yeah. Well, listen to what I'm talking to you about. Play the game, because you will actually get accomplished what you want to have get accomplished, as opposed to, I'm just gonna take a direct approach. To tell them what's up. People aren't ready to receive it, and so it's useless.
Wow, it's so true. And I'm thinking back to the getting stuck in the sand scenario too, where And here's the thing, to make it matters worse, like it's reasonable to assume that how Richard came up to him wasn't like, hey, like we got a problem, let's do this. It wasn't that. It was like, hey, dummy, stuck in the sand, dummy, like you don't know what you're doing, kind of. I'm not sure what he said, but it seemed like that was the approach, right?
Not only the direct approach, it was just openly hostile.
It was openly hostile.
Openly
That's
hostile.
what I think.
So now you get immediate defensiveness. I'm not listening to anything you say. I would rather get stuck than listen to you.
That was literally like what I felt. Like it seems like Jade right now would way rather get stuck than listen to Richard right now. And quite frankly, I don't blame him. The way Richard was like throwing up his hands, like, "Oh my gosh, you're so dumb," kind of a thing. Like again, I didn't hear what he said, but that's what his body language was saying. I'll tell you that. So man, I felt him. So yeah, man.
Let's hope that this guy here can actually listen to what we're saying. I mean it in the most positive possible way. I think you can get out of this situation, but you got to take ownership of what's going on, and you got to make some real changes. Hit us back up. Hit me back up on that. Oh, that'd be cool. I'd like to hear how it all works out.
There's one
I'd like to hear a positive feedback.
Like Jordan Peterson, I think it was on Joe Rogan. So you know how they make those like Jordan Peterson versus Jordan.
Yeah.
Okay, so what he said was part of it got made into that, right? Part of it did. So he was like everybody's rejecting you. Everybody's rejecting you.
Yeah.
It's you, right? Kind of thing. And it's funny because it's like the tone that he said it, but that's kind of irrefutable logic right there, you know, where it's like, man, you're kind of like the girl, it's a joke, I think. I'm pretty sure it's a joke. The girl who goes to the doctor and says, hey, like, my finger hurts or whatever, you know, like when I touch here, like my finger hurts or whatever. And then the doctor goes, okay, the solution is don't touch there, you know, kind of thing. Bro, that's like, it's real obvious to people, you know.
Yeah. It's the tortured genius that Leif talks about in Extreme Ownership.
Yeah.
Hey, look, I'm right, and everyone else just doesn't see the brilliance of my, you know, what I'm doing. No one sees how brilliant I am.
Yeah.
No one sees how brilliant I am.
Yeah, they're too dumb.
And yeah, it's just horrible for me. And it's like, no, actually, maybe you're not right.
Yeah, no, bro. At the very least, something's not right.
At the very least, your approach is wrong.